Alright guys, welcome to Leveling Up. Now, this podcast is all about the journey from beginner barber or stylist to where they're at now. Now, I know it can be quite hard to get into the industry, a lot of setbacks, especially this last couple of years. Now, a lot of people reached out to me and asked me how I got into it. And I just thought maybe it could be a good idea to ask other junior barbers, junior stylists, etc., their journey, just to give a bit of an insight and sort of hopefully enlighten them a little bit to say that you can still get into it and still do it. So I thought I would start the podcast off with talking about mine. Now, I know I'm not a beginner, but my journey is probably a bit old school now compared to what is happening, but this can still be achieved. So I thought maybe to start the podcast off, we could talk about my journey. So I started off going to my local barbers, as everyone does, and I got talking to my barber, Ian. Now, Ian Harold is a very well-known barber, very well-known in the industry, and I'd known Ian pretty much all my life. He knew my mum from a child. I used to be really good friends with his brother, and he lived at the end of the street. So it was very easy to talk to Ian. And I just remember a conversation of him asking me what I was going to do when I left school, and I didn't know, obviously, like a lot of kids. Maybe it's different nowadays, but I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. So I remember asking him, what qualifications did he need to get into his job, into being a barber? And he said, none. You get them all in college. Now, I think to a kid of 14, almost 15, and not feeling very confident in his school or what he was going to do when he leaves, I took that as a pretty a good way to if all else fails kind of attitude. That there is a job out there that I can get, because I'm not a very academic person. I'm not somebody. I'm more practical over theory. I always use that kind of term, as in like driving, because I kind of I'm a lot more practical than I am writing things down and whatnot. And I didn't know it back then, but obviously a lot of kids have got more access to the internet nowadays. Obviously Instagram and things like that, and YouTube, and you can pretty much learn anything you want nowadays without having to go to an extra further curriculum, sort of like college or university. You can kind of do it all. Well, not all of it, but you can do most of it online now. And obviously, I didn't have that. This is like 2000, so I didn't have any of that. We thought the world was going to end and the internet was going to collapse in 2000. So I don't think anyone was trying to plan on building anything quite big back then. So I remember him speaking to, I think it was my mum or my dad, and saying, obviously, your Daniel was in. Would you like to come and do Saturdays and help us out? And I was kind of like, I remember them speaking to me about it. I didn't really know what to say. I was a bit like, really? Okay, Saturday job, okay. But I play football on Saturdays. I'm off on Saturdays from school. And I was never really sort of too keen on the idea, if I'm honest. And I kind of got persuaded into it by my family. And I went and done it. And plus, he was going to pay me £15 as well, which, to a kid of that age, we weren't well off. We weren't, in any way affluent whatsoever. We were very, very working class. I was looking at that thinking, out of all my friends, I'm probably going to, have a bit of cash here to spend. And we only used to spend it on childish things and the occasional bottle of vodka and things like that, as you do when you're a kid and whatnot, especially 15, So I went and done the Saturday, and I remember him dropping off a uniform for me. It was a very smart uniform as well. We used to get our uniforms from Next, which back then Next was quite an expensive place to go. Well, it was to me anyway. It was quite an expensive place to go. So I remember getting the uniform. It was a tie, it was a shirt, a pair of trousers. Probably the smartest I've been in my life. And I turned up on the Saturday, and I was getting the cups of teas, cups of coffees, and I used to sweep around the floor. And as I progressed, getting used to the place, I used to shout "Next, please," and get on up whatever customer was waiting. And I remember sort of just loving it, absolutely loving it. but it was hard. You know, I was doing everything. I was you know, cleaning up, cleaning the toilets, cleaning the back room, you know, having to mop up. I was always like kind of first one in, last one out. And there was a part of me, you know, as the months went on, I really disliked it, because it's very hard to see the woods of the trees when you're in somewhere and you kind of, you know, you're slaving away for, you know, what you start to realise is quite little money the older you get. But, you know, I couldn't see the opportunity that was being given to me. I couldn't see any of that. I could only see there and then that this was just me being a cleaner, you know, and all my other mates were, you know, I kind of carried on doing it. I was doing the Saturdays, and, you know, I enjoyed it. You know, I did enjoy certain parts of it, but as we were getting close to finishing school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know I was going to get offered an apprenticeship. So I was kind of thinking, all right, where am I going with this? And then I remember Ian offering me the apprenticeship. And I think it was from literally like finishing school on the Friday. I think I started full-time in the barbers on a Monday. So I already had an understanding of what my role was going to be. So I came in and I was pretty much doing the same thing as I was on Saturday, you know, on a Monday to Saturday, but I had a day in college on a Wednesday. But I started off just, again, sweeping the floors, polishing the worktops. I mean, Mr. Sheen and a chamois leather was never really out of my hand for a lot of it. I'm sure Ian would disagree, but from what I remember, it was it was still in my hand. And, you know, we used to polish the products, used to polish the shelves, literally, like, you know, doing all the cleaning whilst getting, you know, customers drinks and getting the papers, going out and getting the sundries like the milk and, you know, everything else, sorting the magazines here. Especially when, like, you know, the pet hate was when someone used to read a GQ magazine and just throw it on the table, because I'd laid it out like a bit OCD. I'd say I'd laid them out perfectly uniform, you know, for like very welcoming, you know, that kind of thing. I always had an eye for that kind of detail of that from quite a young age. And you know, as the days went on, I'd speak to friends and they'd be working in McDonald's and they'd be working in, you know, other different shops. And I went into a salary that was, I think it was like £75 a week. So I was doing 4 days in the shop and then a 1 day in college. Now, college was fun. I met a lot of friends who I'm still friends with today from college, and it was a good laugh. I honestly wouldn't say I learned much. I think for me, college was like getting the certificates and kind of building camaraderie and building relationships, because, you know, it was more theory. It was a lot of a theory side of it. Then we did a morning of theory and an afternoon of practical. But I think when we first started, it was mainly just sitting down and doing health and safety and stuff, which, I mean, you have to do, unfortunately, because obviously it wouldn't be there for a reason if it didn't need to be done. But it was more of, I just went there to kind of enjoy the kind of my mates. And, you know, you learn little bits, but, you know, for me, it wasn't really, I was very much, again, a practical person. So I'd spend the day in in college, and I'd be kind of looking forward to getting back to the shop, which while I was in the shop, I used to think, God, clean another shelf, clean another thing. So, you know, it never started off all fun and games. It never started off straight cutting hair, which I think that can be the perception a lot of the time, where you expect, and especially now, because everything nowadays is so fast. Like, you know, I don't know about you, but I can sit on my phone and get really pissed off that my phone isn't loading up straight away. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I'm sure there's other people who get like that. So I wanted to be cutting hair. I wanted to be learning cutting hair, but what I didn't realise what I was doing, whilst I was getting told to stand and watch, you know, half the time I'd be staring out the window, or, you know, my mate would come in for a haircut, we'd be, you know, doing this fucking about, you know, kind of shit and giggles, as they say. You know, I'd be looking at him and he'd start making me laugh and all that sort of stuff. And I'd just see, like, whatever the barber was I was watching would just kind of look at me like either. I forgot there was a mirror. I mean, I'm so used to mirrors now. I use mirrors all the time to communicate to people on the slide, but at the time I forgot the mirror was even there. So I'd be looking at my mate, kind of miming something to him, or, you know, talking under my breath, and the whole time Dean or Mike or whoever I was watching would just be looking at me in the mirror going, "Yeah, you should be watching it." But I didn't realise I was learning by watching. And I think that is a really, really big thing that's become more apparent now with the likes of YouTube and the likes of even Instagram and any of the other video sharing platforms, that everything we watch, we absorb, whether it's conspiracy theories, whether it's how to change a door handle, anything that you practically want to learn about, you watch now. You don't necessarily go into a workplace and get a lecture. You just watch videos. And I didn't realise what I was doing. I was watching these guys, these incredibly talented barbers. I didn't really realise how talented they were until I got into it and got many more years into the job, how talented they were, and still are. But a lot of it when you're starting off, for me, was a lot of days standing up watching, standing up cleaning. It wasn't what, when you watch the barbers cutting hair and they're doing the circles and the customers are going, oh, God, I'm made up, this is great. I was never getting that satisfaction. Whereas I get that satisfaction now, but and what the barbers were getting, that kind of handshake, the little tip at the end of it all, I was getting none of that. So, it got very disheartening towards it. And this is nothing against where I worked. It was just, I was wanting to run before I could walk. And that's kind of me all over, really. But I wanted to learn I wanted to be cutting hair on the shop floor. And, I'd say the minimum amount of time you should really be spending, and this is again just a personal thing, is at least a year watching and learning. Because it's very hard to learn and to pick up. And it's not just about cutting hair, it's all the things you learn, like how to communicate with people. What things not to talk about. They always say that on a first date, don't talk about, religion and politics. It's a very similar thing when it comes to someone sitting in your chair as well. You learn quite quickly that if someone has a disagreement with you or a difference of opinion, it can become quite heated. Not that I ever got into arguments, but there was times where you'd have the running joke of like there was a character called Ron Manager on the Fast Show. I don't know if I'm probably showing my age here, but it was a comedian, Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse, and they had this show, and Ron Manager was a TV pundit on football who would give an opinion and then agree with everybody else. So say for example, go, oh, that goalkeeper was terrible, he was shit then. And then the other pundit would go, well, actually, to be honest, I thought he was actually really good, he played really well. And he'd go, oh, no, I agree, totally, really, really good, yeah, played really well. And go back on his opinion. And I found that that's who I was becoming. Not because I wanted to get into it, but just because it was much easier to kind of hear someone else's side of the story and go, actually, do you know what? He's made a point. And I found myself getting a bit like that. And these are all things you learn by watching, by standing with a barber and watching, not just the way they cut hair, but how they hold themselves, how they present themselves. And I never really watched all that, but I was subconsciously taking notes without me realising. Like, my conscious mind was watching, my subconscious was taking everything else in. And I think that's why it takes a long time to pick these things up. And as I always say, I'm not the beginner. I'm 20 years in now, but I think some ways I am learning new things all the time. I am a beginner barber in other aspects of this job. So I did that for about a year. I think I was quite quick because I think I'd done the Saturdays. I picked up quite quickly, and some people just pick this job up easily. I'm not saying it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely picked it up quite quick to the point where I was I was showing people how to fade in college and things like that. And that was kind of that was my first year. My first year was generally just cleaning, making sure the shop run smoothly for all the barbers as well. It's the best I could at that age. But what that taught me at that young age is that taught me how to run my own barbershop. As what it takes from the very, very bottom to get to the very, very top. And when I did open my shop, I know fast forward here, but when I did open my shop, I had all the understandings of the cleanliness, the smooth running, how things should be laid out, how to keep on top of sundays, how to keep on top of magazines, just little things like that. I know that they're not major things, but it's the little details that make you and your shop differ from everywhere else. So without me realising, I was learning all that subconsciously and consciously because I was actually doing it. But there's a lot of things that went on. At the very start, again, like I said, I was quite disheartened. I thought I'd be going into cut hair, which turned out I wasn't. But at the same time, when you're in it, it's very hard to see the future. And I remember speaking to I think it was my nan, and I remember there was a point when I think I just moved onto the shop floor, and I was still only earning quite a low wage, because that's just what it was. Like, that was just how it was. I think I was earning £125 a week. And I remember I must have been maybe a year and a half in. I think I was just cutting hair. But again, me being me, wanting to run before I could walk, I was expecting to be in the same as the other guys who'd been doing it 10, 15 years longer than me. Because I was in my head, and I was quite an argumentative character back then. I could have a bit of a hot head as well, being a young sort of 15, 16-year-old. I'd be really probably just moaning all the time, if I'm honest. And I'm pretty sure one of my old one of my mates who I used to work with, Jay, used to always say this story that, when he walked in, I was getting so wound up, I wouldn't even say hello, because I was just so wound up in myself, because I was saying all these things to myself. I should be earning this, I should be earning that, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And the reality was, I shouldn't have been. But again, famous saying, you can't see the wood for the trees, and it's true. So I was earning such a low wage. I remember one of my mates was earning, I think it was like 250 quid a week working in Mackey's and McDonald's. And I was so jealous. I was like, I want to be earning that. I want to be earning that. I'm working probably harder than he is, doing definitely longer hours than he is. And he just seems, he used to say like he didn't do much and he used to earn this. And I was getting really down to the point where I was like thinking of quitting. Because not that I'm a money motivated person, but it does come, it's a big factor in everybody's life, money, unfortunately. And I just remember being like, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go and get a job in McDonald's or somewhere like that, because I want to earn more money. Because at the time, first of all, I used to work Saturdays, so going out on a Friday was kind of off the cards, or if it was the most horrendous day the next day. And also I didn't have the disposable income that they did. We all still live in a home, so they were keeping pretty much all of what they earned, which was like about £125 more than me, which, as a kid, goes a long way. And back then it used to go an even longer way than it does now. So I just remember being really down about it, and I remember my nan going, the thing is, Dan, is that they're earning £250 now, but the likelihood their wage isn't going to go much higher than what it is now unless they start going to the managerial role, which, it's very hard to get. Whereas yours will go up the better you get. So if you better yourself and you get, you spend time learning these things to prove that you are better than yourself, your money will go probably much quicker than what, so-and-so's go. And I mean, I hate to say it, but she was right. It's a natural progression, and, you can then start charging more because you've got all this experience and all this time and dedication you've put into it. And, other opportunities will open up as well. Other salons will probably come and try and poach you because they hear good things about you, they see your work, and they'll go, come to me and we'll pay you X amount. So that did end up happening. I wasn't poached, I actually went in on my own accord because my mate from college was working there, but I went there and started earning much more money than I was. And to me at the time, it was fantastic. I was happy. I was happy enough. But in life, you get complacent and you want to earn more money. But that was kind of the starting point of my career, really. It was from the very bottom. It was a very, very hard job. It was tiring. It was at times it felt demeaning. And it wasn't being a barber, it was being a cleaner. It was which I thought I was, but actually looking back, it wasn't. It was actually setting myself up for me to open my own one day, which I couldn't see it. So I suppose this first episode is slightly different to what you're going to hear, but the whole point of this is to inspire barbers who might be stuck in the rut at the very start, might be considering getting into barbering or hairdressing and not really know how it all works and how it starts. But any top-notch salon will say you start from the bottom, and that this is what I want to kind of share with you guys, is that I started from the bottom. and I'm 20 years in, and you know, I'm still cutting hair. I'm still learning. I'm still enjoying it. I'm enjoying it more now than I ever have. But you know, it does happen. We all have to start somewhere, and I think if you start too quickly, I think you will end up falling even quicker. And I think it's always nice to remember that, you know, it isn't about, you know, getting everything you want there and then. You know, the longer you wait for it, the more you earn it, the richer the reward. And I would say, especially in this trade, that couldn't be more apparent. So I'm going to leave it there. Just a very, very short introduction, and what you will see and what is to come from this podcast should be truly inspiring. And you know, a lot of people have reached out to me to become a guest on the show, and I think it'll be awesome. I think it'll be very interesting to hear people's stories. And you know, some of the guys have only been doing it for 9 months. Some guys have only been doing it for maybe 5 years. But it's very interesting to hear how they started and any of the similarities. And you know, you might just pick up on something similar to their starting point. Maybe you're in their starting point now. So please subscribe on all our platforms. Make sure you turn on any notifications that you need to. And yeah, I really do hope you enjoy the Leveling Up podcast. And thanks for listening. My name's Dan Gregory, and thanks, guys.